let me blow my nose. I'll be right back.
Did you do coke?
I wish, honestly. It's better than actually seeing a girl and then getting sick because of her. But it was
That's what happens when you jump around all the time, but okay.
Oh, come on. I don't have STDs. Let me go. Welcome to episode 2 of my conversation with Emily Elizabeth Duong. What made me decide to divide the conversation into 2 parts is the fact that part number 1 is very podcast-like and somewhat professional, and we speak about topics that have anything to do with greatness and accountability and more self-help things, while part number 2 is all about dating and relationships. On top of it, it feels like part number 2 is a lot more similar to what our conversations will be like as friends, which is what we actually are with Emily. And therefore, I felt like there was a clear cut and that there was a necessity for a part 2 instead of keeping the whole conversation into one piece. This podcast is not perfect. I had a cold, I had a stuffed nose, and overall the audio is not always sounding great. Despite of these shortcomings, I've still decided to keep and actually upload this conversation because I find it offers a unique insight within very unique dating related life situations that I think would be able to benefit listeners. Selfishly, I'm also using this as an opportunity to win my constant battle with perfectionism. What you're about to hear is extremely personal, both on my side, but especially on Emily's side. And I specifically want to highlight the fact that it takes a lot of courage for someone to go on a recorded conversation and decide to share personal things about themselves. And therefore, I would like to ask you to suspend any possible judgment or negative emotions that might arise from listening to some of the conversations that we might have. Keep in mind that we're humans, we are flawed, and nothing is black or white. It's always some sort of shade of gray that is tainted with complexities and the beauty of being a human being. Some of the questions asked come from my perspective, knowing Emily and talking about really, really personal things with her. And therefore, I decided to add context before some of the questions so that you could understand the reason for the question itself. Lastly, there has been a significant tone change within the editing of the podcast. While episode number 1 was quite edited and clean out of any imperfections, I wanted to keep this episode mostly unedited as to resemble what a natural and normal human conversation would look like. Despite of the fact that I'm a big proponent for keeping things as they are, some parts of the conversations have been cut in order to maintain privacy. So without any further ado, sit back, relax, and enjoy part 2 of this conversation with the amazing Emily Elizabeth Duong. I was with a girl 2 days ago and she wasn't feeling too well, and I think I got a little sick from that, but now I'm like recovering already. So yeah. Yeah.
Huh. Is this a new girl?
Yeah, that's a new one.
Oh God. Here we go. Oh God, Elia. Oh God. We got some things to catch up on that topic too, but you know. Unlike you, I try to withhold. I'm kidding. I'm not.
Oh, come on. All right, this fine is staying in.
Yeah. You know, despite all the advances I keep getting from people.
You're such a saint. I love it.
Well, it's not like I was in the past. I'm just saying at this current chapter, I don't know. I really don't have much of a desire right now to like be physically intimate with someone. I can still see heavily how I'm just not emotionally present. And so it's a very weird, as one friend calls it, like a purgatory stage of I am free to do as I wish, to be really fair. And I see that as well for my situation. I would say that's fair because there was never necessarily a clear discussion, and per how much time has passed, it's, not to brag, somewhat inevitable for me. Like I'm like, okay, I have to put this out here too, and I'm curious what your thoughts are on, like, I find it very ironic in the recent 2 months. It's almost like a stress test. Someone said this, verbally used that word 2 days ago. Like past 2 months, 2.5 months, Oh, okay. Maybe the guy. Sorry, now that I think of it, it wasn't Greek, but I did go out with a British guy in like early December for coffee.
Yeah, but I remember that he was
I don't
Greek
remember.
and he lived in London, I think.
Okay. No. Okay, here we go. Yes, he does live in London. He's from.
Oh, is
Yes,
he
he's
from
from.
Greece? Okay.
No, but he does speak 7 languages, and that was really attractive. As you know, I'm a wannabe polyglot. He speaks Russian and Italian, so I'm like, fuck. To be candid, if there was anyone that was like the closest fit, like I'd give him another shot for sure. But the one thing that threw me off was that he is previously married. He's like I think 40, previously married. Obviously I would need more context. But you know, I'd prefer to be first wife.
Haha.
I'm just saying, so it does throw in a whole curveball, but from my like 2 hour coffee conversation with him and his like mannerism and like, if anyone, he had a better shot than other people by a long shot, for sure. Yeah, for sure. But maybe it's nice that he lives in London because it's just like keeps that gap there. But anyways, where I was going with that is, yeah, I met someone on New Year's who asked me out for dinner, which I thought was very forward because it was a very, fancy dinner place for a first date. But I'm like, okay, that's cool. And then I went to Miami last week and met a guy. He's actually Italian. But you know what the shitty part was? You know the shitty part? He doesn't speak Italian, even though his parents are from Italy. Like born and raised in Italy and immigrated here to New York. But he doesn't speak it, and I felt really bummed, and it was a little bit of a turn off because I'm like, oh come on, like what if I want to speak Italian with your mom? Anyways. Moral, all of that to say, I keep getting asked out left and right. Like I'm talking, this guy was across the bar. Oh, I also was next to Damon John as this happened. FYI, Damon John from Shark Tank. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's
we can fucking soak that in. Yeah, I was in like a little club in Miami, or not even a club. It's like a bar lounge club. Lounge. We call it lounge. A lounge restaurant. Next to Damon John as his security is like pushing him out the door. I'm next to him. I make eyes with this guy across the bar. And I think I already at that point already walked by him once and he said hi to me and I looked and I just ignored. And then I was like, yeah, he's cute. But I was like, I'm not in the mood. I'm not in this like, LA Emily mood where she can flirt around and do whatever she wants. I'm just not like present there. I don't know what it is. I think that's pretty obvious. But also at the same time, like I try these different steps of accepting these first date offers. And I'm like, okay, like I'll give it a try and see. And in those moments, I can see where my head is at, who I'm thinking about, as well as my level of presence, my level of connection. It's not even because someone else is blocking it, although like, yes, but I put myself in a position to allow myself to not think about it as almost like as a test to see. And it's none of these work. So that is to say, I'm at a purgatory point where I'm not very like I'm like playful, but just to like this threshold. Like most people are not getting this like full intimate Emily because they're also not hitting that point for me either. Whereas maybe in the past I would have been more like down for certain things that didn't require the full Emily. And now it's like you don't get this unless you get full Emily. Like you need to connect with full Emily before you get like more of Emily is kind of where I'm currently at. And maybe it's just because the standard has been set there now because of a recent experience. I don't know. But I had to be fair, it's not like I was like this 2 years ago.
Yeah, I think it's also, I think it's also related to your past, like, can we say ex relationship? Hello, this is editing Aliyah. Before this point within the conversation, and definitely after, Emily and I were hinting at some relationship dynamics that we are both aware of that happened within her. And therefore, I felt like in order for you, the viewer, to actually understand what is going on, I asked Emily to record some context so you understand a little bit the reason behind the questions I ask and the answer she gives me.
Hey guys, so just popping in to add some context per Elia's request. So I've dated someone for quite some time over the recent year, and this person is one that I have certainly never felt a deeper connection with. And to be frank, I would describe it as a very soulful connection. I even ironically wrote in those terms about this person only a day after I met him in a journal. And so I share all that because, I think it's very easy to see from a black and white situation in that we haven't had consistent communication over the past few months due to personal circumstances for him. In addition to, I think, me not, at the time, not showing characteristics of a secure partner, someone that can be emotionally supportive, especially in a time when a partner needs that. So, I think it's kind of 50-50 in terms of why things went to a lull. That being said, we never formally broke up, but in the past few months, we have not had any consistent communication or moments where we would kind of pick things back up, which has also not because of the person, but rather because of my own desires and where I'm at emotionally. It has made me really cautious and hesitant to proceed with even first dates, as surface level they are or whatever. It has made me feel that way. And I would attribute it, sure, to partially emotional attachment, but I just think because of the type of person I am very mindful of where I allocate my energy. And so, just because I am not formally tied down with someone, it doesn't mean that I necessarily have a desire to just go and date around and do all that. And maybe that's just also from my experience, because I've fortunately have had dating experience already in my past. So I think for me, I really have to see that it's worthwhile my energy and time. But yeah, that's kind of just the context as to why I have been slightly hesitant in going forward with new potential partners, so to speak. But all that to say, if I had to put money on it and my gut instinct on kind of how this plays out, I think my gut is right in terms of I think this is kind of like a bookmark being put in a book and pausing it and kind of walking away from the book and like starting a new one. And it's just kind of a matter of time of whether one returns to that book is honestly my analogy. So enjoy that. And let's get back into the conversation. I guess, yeah, that's what, yeah, I don't even, yeah, I guess we could call it that. I don't even know what to call it sometimes because I can still see how it lingers in terms of, but like, for example, because it's very trivial, but it's very trivial, but just how like I can sense that there's something going on in his mind where like I remember the first few months, and to you this is trivial, but like I notice it just because that's like the only sphere of connection we have besides like texting, where on Instagram or social media for like 2 months, 3 months, he didn't like look at any of my stuff, didn't like any of it, and he still doesn't like engage with any of my content. But in December he started to look at it every single day, and then he stopped for a few weeks, and then now, as of like 2 days ago, he started looking at it again. And so there's this weird, I genuinely, and that's why it's funny when I did bring up to you recently about muting stuff. Like I'm sure he's muted me or, whatever. And I don't blame him because I unfollowed him at one point too, because I didn't just want to mute you. I just wanted to like not see, like engage or have any business to do with you.
Oh, this is so complicated though. Like, why don't you just engage directly with you? Like,
well, no, we have had direct conversations, but he's like a fucking poet. He is a poet, right? Even when we were together, he would communicate sometimes in like certain poetic ways and like stanzas, like for real, like in actual poetry. Like even when he's like said I love you, he said it in a very poetic way. Like we wrote it yeah. And I actually adapted it. Like I adapted to it and I really enjoyed it because it was a little different than my classic NTJ like directness, and I actually enjoyed it. Yeah. But so it is like a good complimenting, like, I don't know, I saw the way it made me and I really enjoyed that. It does become difficult when it's a situation like this, obviously. That lack of directness can only be interpreted, or you have to understand the person well. And I've been only able to base it off of my actual genuine understanding of. If I had to bet on it, I would say he's like, I think he still feels the same way. If he comes to terms sooner than later and is able to have a conversation, you know, it may go that route. But if he's too late, he's too late in terms of like, I may be with someone new by that point. You know what I mean? And it's just a matter of who gets there first. It's kind of how I see it. I think my feelings have still remained the same, despite my efforts to allow it to gauge in a different direction, but it really hasn't. So I see it that, you know, I have no dire need to be dating right now, but I can't deny that I kind of just get connected everywhere. So yeah.
If you were to predict which one of the two sides is going to capitulate first?
I honestly don't know. Like, that is really hard to tell. Like, I couldn't even pinpoint it right now. I do know which one I'm rooting for, which is obviously like, it's like I'm like from a third player view or whatever we want to call it. Like I'm rooting for I genuinely am, but I can't, like, that's on him. Like, I can't play that out for him. And so I think he also struggles with that. And it's interesting how well I do think I actually understand him more than I allow myself to take credit for, at least to some degree, because I remember at one point when I was not being the most secure partner and was kind of blowing up at him. This was back in August, and this was basically led to the downfall. You know, I remember saying to a friend of mine, I said, I bet that he's laying in bed all day having anxiety about losing me. And verbatim, he texted me the following day, because he didn't respond all day. He texted me the following day saying, I've been laying in bed all day having anxiety of losing you. Yeah. Yeah. And I called that. So that's why I think, like, even though it makes no logical sense to most people, like the way I describe the way he's like probably feeling right now, I do suspect that it's, I would bet 70% the case, but like, you know, I can't help that I you know, somewhat magnetic to people, so, you know, I get asked out and
I can tell that.
I'm not
Looking
like,
and like people like me and people want to like hang out with me. Like, oh, I can help it. It's just like this just happens.
I mean, it's like I'm genuine. I'm not even trying. I don't use apps. Like, I'm not on any, like, of course I'm not on apps, you know? It's like half the time I feel like I'm still with him, even though I'm technically, like, it's there. I don't know. It is gray. There is no actual black and white answer. There is no, I'm like not with him, and there is no I am with him. But it is that. It's just limbo. It's just limbo.
It's such a shame because
yeah.
Like to this, the simple thing, quote unquote, that would need to happen is just like development, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say especially on his side and overcoming trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like the only element that's like in the way.
Yeah. I've suspected that too. That that it just is likely like an internal thing, a lot of internal things that he needs to overcome for himself. And I guess I speculate, you know, it's a matter of time whether he can do that, and if he kind of gets to it sooner than later.
It's tough. It's genuinely tough. Yeah, there is a lot of moving elements within this. Man, that's such a shame. It's literally like I recognize the behavior, you know, when it comes to like you miss someone, you check up their Insta stories, stuff like that. Like I've done it too, but you know.
Oh, you have?
Yeah, for sure. And it's sad because, especially in so many situations, there is actually a desire for the other person that's creating the content to actually connect with you, but you just stay paralyzed and passive and don't do anything.
Who has a desire? The person that's viewing this content, or the person creating the I'm trying to just for my own clarification.
Both people.
Oh, okay.
Both. That's the case in your side as well, like you're rooting for him, yet and he probably wants to like talk to you, but it's just blocked.
Correct. And I would bet a lot that he wants to talk to me. Like I don't have doubts on that. I'm just maybe puzzled or curious what that block is. I'm aware there's a block. So, again, it takes awareness and consciousness, I think, to recognize kind of what it is, versus a lot of people would look at this like he's mistreating you type of thing. It's like, sure, one can say that and then like try to feel better about it. It's like, yo, he mistreated me, so I'm moving on to someone new. Like I hear that story from girls all the time, and I'm always like picking a little bit. I'm like, well, what did he do? Like, what did he not do? You can see how they just spin it to make themselves feel better about their future decision of like what they want to do. And I have taken a lot of introspective work to ensure that I don't do that, because speculating and taking action on a complete misperception is how you, in my opinion, create some regrets, because you chose to do something out of a belief of something else. Whereas it's different if I go, okay, I'm aware he most likely feels this way, and I feel this way, but because there is this gap and lack of action, I will proceed with, sure, going on a date, because people are interested, and I will leave that gate has now been opened, Not that is my desire, though. I will say, this is an interesting take that you might be curious to hear. I said this to a friend on Sunday, that going on these dates or interacting with some of these guys have really made, it's funny, it's in a competitive term, it makes me feel like I'm settling for second place. It's funny how I use that verbiage. Yeah. The reason being is because it kind of ties back to, which is funny how I gave you shit for Elia's bouncing around and Emily's not because she's a saint. I'm kidding. No, I know. We all have
that capitulated quickly.
But for me, it's like, even though it's been, I guess, months now, it just still, that feeling of what it feels like to be really deeply connected with someone is so fresh in my mind and soul, that when I'm in the presence of other people, guys-wise, it is so evident when it is not deeply connected, or even like middle ground connected even. And then there's some that has hit maybe middle ground, there's some that has hit surface. So I've seen those differences too between like one versus the other. But I can see myself going, but this isn't like what you're capable of having. And so I sit there and I could go, yeah, like I could like have fun with this. But Emily internally knows, like, this is also like second choice, and you're about to take that. And that's really hard for me to sit with as well. Funny enough, from a competitive lens, like, oh fuck, like since when is someone second and first? It's not like, and to clarify, it's not like the other guy, I'm not, in case you want to keep this, I'm not going to say his name. It's not like the other person is like first. It's just that the connection, that level of connection is first. And like that kind of depth when it on all across the board. So you can see the marginal difference when it's with someone that has like, 9 or 10 out of 10 on all those, and someone that's like only hitting 6 out of 10 on like all of those. You can see and feel the difference. And For someone with my personality, it's hard to be like, yeah, I'm okay with like this functional second place option.
Ugh.
But I can't. I would rather just walk around and be single, and that's the nice part about my personality too, is I'm independent. I have my own things going. So my energy is not focused on, let me go and find someone new. Let me go find a date. You know, it's like I'm getting asked out left and right while people are on apps saying New York dating sucks. And I'm like, I have met people on random occasions at random places every single time. This is not a brag. I'm just saying maybe it's just an energy thing. Maybe it's the way, like, I'm very I'm more grounded internally because I worked on some things about myself, and maybe that's like a sign one needs to like go work internally. I don't know. Just some thoughts.
You're not desperate.
No. I'm not only not desperate, but I'm also not looking in like a necessity way where not to call out people on apps. It really depends on your intention behind it, how you utilize it. Okay. And I know you are typically a fan of it from what, if I remember correctly, or maybe right now you don't even need it, but maybe in the past, I don't know. Yes, I don't know.
No comment.
But I will say it's like, I don't go looking for dates. Yet the irony is like they've been flocking to me. And in fact, it's almost like I'm not even neutral to it. It's almost like I kind of prefer not at this current time. But if it's like a worthwhile shot for a first time date, and I am a good conversationalist, so I know myself too, I know my boundaries, I know how I can stir it to be very cordial and not like I can stir it where people don't get this assumption like I can sleep with Emily on this first date or whatever, or even in the near future. So I don't have fears around that, if that makes sense, that it gives people the wrong idea. I just know that I can potentially do it for a good podcast story. You know, someone made a joke on Instagram. You want to know what it says? It says Italy for women is like Thailand for men. Basically, this whole concept of in Thailand, there's like shit ton of cheap prostitutes, and in Italy, there's just a shit ton of men that will sleep with you.
Wow.
Because Italian men just are horny motherfuckers. Anyways.
I would like to argue that it's pretty balanced when it comes to horniness, both between males and females in Italy, and also in other places as well. I don't know about other places. Let's say Italy. I literally have been joking with my best friend about if you spend enough time with someone of the other sex, no matter how they look, you're gonna end up having sex at some point. And that's kind of like the reality.
What do you mean like enough? What do you mean enough time? Like
it's purposely blurry. Like I don't know, enough time. At some point,
I don't know. I spent a lot of time. Okay, but like I spent a lot of time with my best friend Harry, you, Ronnie, Dave. Like I'm not fucking anyone. Unless you mean more clarification, like actual consistent in-person time.
Consistent in-person time where there is the ability to expand energy together. That is partying, that is go eating out, that is activities, these kind of things. It's just mathematical from my perspective, and that's the case with social circle that I'm a part of here. It's like 4 guys and 4 girls, and when I first came here, no one was in a relationship with each other, and literally by now everyone has slept with each other. Literally.
Oh God.
No one is left out.
So you guys are Eskimo bros.
Oh, well, some of us are. in the sense that literally like everyone got into a relationship with someone else within the circle. So I'm not saying that everyone fucked each
Damn.
other, but pretty much.
Oh wow. This is why I choose to live in a place like New York.
I know. I agree with you. It's, I literally keep on going about this. I miss a big city where
Yeah.
you don't know everyone that you're in sex with. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. New
God.
York is next for you.
Well, yes, but also I feel like you actually got to be careful about STDs in New York.
Yeah, I mean, this is partially why I don't sleep around here, just from an energetic level. Yeah.
There you go, girl. Stay strong. Keep it up.
I know. It honestly only began after, like, it began with that. I'll put it that way.
I'm joking, obviously,
Yeah.
but I 100% understand and agree with you. Like it's so much better within that kind of like depth of connection.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now I have a whole list of topics I wanted to ask you about, and we're not definitely not gonna hit all of them. I'm pretty content with what we got, but I do want to ask you a few less things.
Yes.
What signals does a woman give to a man if she likes him?
Eye contact. Number one, eye contact. And we'll like hold it. I think you can really feel the warmth of a woman towards you when she's interested. That's just body language and like openness and willingness to like keep the conversation flowing. I think there's that element to it, just like the warmth though. Because if you feel like, oh, this girl's not as into it, you can feel it. I think those are just very instinctual.
Yeah. Within the seduction community, there is like a few other ones, such as like hair touching or airbrushing, or being really reactionary, or just like body language wise, like facing you all the time or wanting to keep the conversation going.
Yes, facing. Yeah, the openness facing you.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I'm so tempted to go on tangents right now because I have so many stories to tell about this kind of stuff. But God.
I feel like we need a part 2, to be honest.
Well, we'll get it.
We'll get it. Session. Yeah.
Oh, we can make it into a series, whole episodic series.
Yeah.
Well, we haven't even touched on your podcast. Like, what the fuck? God.
We went off on a tangent because I got funny when I was like, oh, you've been dating around. And then we went off on a whole 1-hour tangent of my little love story. Damn it.
In a brief matter, how has your life changed interviewing hundreds of people?
Well, it has given me the level of access that I wouldn't have if I didn't have a podcast or a media platform that encourages certain people to not only want to come on my show but some people that have been on my show were on my show because of their own PR team. And so it becomes like this center of where I get to really connect with people and learn from them, especially on the business side, but also their knowledge in all these different topics I'm interested in. So that has been kind of my own internal impact. But I think also it has made me more, this one's the biggest one. I think I've become a lot better of a speaker and listener because the amount of times I have to interview and then edit myself And when I hear myself or like, or if I talk over someone, it's very evident. And so I am extremely mindful of it. I can catch myself in the moment right away. And unfortunately, that means I do hear other people do it more frequently than someone without my experience would. Because I will hear it, I'm like, you could have paused and let them finish. But yeah, those are the two things that come to mind for me. That's how my life has changed. I've become a better, really, really fucking good conversationalist in the real world, because I can engage with people like this. I can keep a conversation going like this, and I can actually ask questions on the spot that I care about.
That's fucking Holy Grail. Like the sun is falling right now. It's beautiful. Yes, I've been editing myself recently in YouTube videos, and I recognize I'm so deeply aware of my flaws. I constantly go like and ahs, and I'm doing it right now literally, and I just like prolong ends because I don't know what to say, and so I just say and then the next thing. It's fascinating. In this spirit, do you have any advice to give to a beginner podcaster that doesn't know anything and is desperate for some guidance?
Few things that come to mind. Number one, don't spend too much time worrying about the quality of it. I take this from Gary Vee. I did the Gary Vee approach of just getting it out there, because funny enough, I was just listening to a podcast with Stephen Pressfield, the author behind The War of Art, I think what it's called. And he talks about resistance. And I think so many times we create resistance for ourselves based off of trivial things. So quality, like just go post it and revise over time. My second thing is definitely create some sort of media platform for it, separate from your like own personal one. So that's like Instagram and or a YouTube channel for it. Obviously, that's your expertise, and or something else that just really is like a hub for it, because especially, you know, even though nowadays you do need multiple outlets, it's really helpful to be able to post that video on LinkedIn and YouTube and Instagram and whatever. It just really widespreads it. So I think focusing on just getting it out, word of mouth out, versus this hasn't hit 1,000 views yet or it hasn't hit whatever amounts. I think it's just more important to focus on the input instead of checking up on the analytics. It is so easy to do that, but especially fresh off of hearing Stephen Pressfield talk about how it took him 27 years before he actually sold his first book is really amazing. And hearing his journey in that, all while him now being a bestseller. So to me, that's just the reality of being one of the best in your own field and in your own work, is that it takes a long time. It's not an overnight thing, which we all know, but a lot of people who got into podcasting in the past 2 years, from like pandemic time to, or maybe like post-pandemic to like the past year, everyone kind of stopped after 6 months. It is demanding, but that's why you have to like just love the process. You have to love the actual concept of talking to people and gaining insight from people and sharing that content out. And I think that's something you do enjoy. So that's why I always wanted you to have one, because I think that's so up your alley. But for the people that were like, yes, it's trending, let me hop on it, and they get tired after 6 months because of the actual time it takes to hone on this craft, that's why. But yeah, I would say my favorite person who gave advice around that is just Gary Vee. Just like post it, go do it. I have had episodes that have done really well, that I recorded when I was in Paris on my iPhone, just like this on my iPhone, speaking to it, laying in bed, like, because I had jet lag. So yeah, so that had good views. It was just, so it really solidified that I don't need a perfect mic or video. Just get it out there. And over the years, I can perfect the process.
Do you have any tips for me?
Don't be an asshole.
Too late, sorry. I cannot do that.
On podcasting?
Yeah.
Or on dating?
I mean, I could use it on both, but for the context of this interaction, let's say
Okay, no.
let's say podcasting. I'm actually really fucking curious about your tips on dating as well, if you have time, but only if you have time.
Mm-hmm. Podcasting for you, I think, from what I recall, sometimes you can be a bit of a perfectionist in the sense where, like, all this like past 2 years or so, I was kind of like, you should do a podcast. You should consider a podcast. And you kind of, I remember at one point you were like, yeah, within the next 5 years. And now you're like doing it, but I'm kind of like, you didn't have to wait, you don't have to wait to have the perfect software or the perfect cameras or the perfect mic, things like that. So I think that's my biggest advice for you is just like get them out there. Like get them out there and then change it up as you go. That's from my observation, potentially one of your biggest resistance is also trying to, like, you're really good with YouTube and you know how to craft these videos really well, but YouTube is a different process than podcasting. For sure. And even that, right? Even with YouTube videos, if I'm not mistaken, even some that you think are going to get really good views end up getting less than you had thought or hoped, and vice versa. So you can kind of see that it's just a game of time. Like, just get them out there and adjust as you go.
Yeah, definitely resonate with the perfectionist perspective. It was in my New Year's resolution to be less of a perfectionist and truly give it up forever. And to enable madness as well, to enable discomfort within content creation and really filling up my plate more than I can handle.
Mm-hmm.
How about dating?
Use the condom. Okay.
Okay, Mom, thank you.
Okay, here are my 2 cents. So I don't think this will affect you now, but it may be something to think about when you are, let's say, 28. Something I've noticed that from observing friends and peers around my age, like if they are, let's say they're 25 and they're dating someone and they're dating with the intention of eventually, okay, let me backtrack with this. Elia, do you have a basic age range in mind that you would like to be with a lifetime partner by then? Again, that's why I'm not using the word married, but I'm just saying that you would want to be maybe slightly more established in a partnership with someone where you're living with them type of deal. Is there an age range you'd give yourself or envision yourself?
Sure, I would say anything between like 28 and 20. Between 28 and 20. Like
28 and 20? Like right now?
No. Like, oh, I see. Okay. Now I think I misunderstood the question. When do I expect to start thinking about marriage or in any case a long-term relationship? That's the question.
Yeah.
It's funny you asked it. Another point within my New Year's resolution was to find a high quality LTR, which means long-term relationship. I definitely felt a desire towards the beginning of this year to actually get into a long-term relationship with someone. I don't know regarding marriage yet, but definitely towards that direction.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I asked that because I even shared this with a really close guy friend of mine who he's only 24, but I did give him this sisterly warning that when you are seriously dating, one thing that I'm not sure is as explicitly shared, especially from like a woman's mind, is this: you start to kind of rate guys outside of the classic, okay, their looks, how they treat you, all that. You really start to hone down on, are they going to actually be a good partner? Like for real, for real. Like, do they have the money and the means for the lifestyle I seek to be partnered with, or like the skill set to grow towards that. And those are like more micro things that people start to look at, or women start to look at, especially when they're kind of deciding, do I stay in this relationship, or, is this guy even a good fit? And I feel like that's something really important for men as they approach that age of actually having a high consideration of a long-term partner, is that the female might not verbalize the fact that that is something she's taking into account. Besides the way you make her feel and treat her and the actual level of connection. I said that to my guy friend because right now he has like zero. And I said in the nicest way, he has like zero capability of being like a fucking man. And I tell him that as a warning because it will be a shittier feeling when you're 28, 4 years later. When some girls might walk, even though you have all the greatest things, but like just your, it's just like that when you take it back to like the village, it's like or literally back in the day where it's the man, does he have the skill set to hunt for the fucking family type of thing. And I really see it as a biological thing where people will observe, all right, that's kind of the final straw. Can this man do that for me? Not that like the woman can't for herself, because I would say I look for that as well. So even my, partner situation, not that he like has that. It never bothered me though, but I was very observant of that skill set. Like, have you done it before, and or can you do it? And I see that important because some people will be dating a guy, for example, and he might have came from money or came from some wealth that is helpful, but then you observe his level of skills and it could be 0 to none. And that's like really unattractive and almost alarming. So if people don't get that warning ahead of time, like for guys in their mid-20s, and they don't get to build on that early enough, they might get hit with a shitty reality later, where a woman might choose, like the guy might be like, oh, that guy was less attractive though. He has like, less this though. But it's also being able to project one's ability to actually perform when needed. And if you see someone that's been like handheld all their life or just never built upon it, not a great partner, even if you're high quality in other areas.
Jordan Peterson calls it having the ability to be dangerous while also keeping that under control. And I think with the word danger, there is a lot of danger, and that danger is like ability to create an impact within yourself and people. It's like danger financially, danger physically, danger mentally. It's correlated to power.
Yeah, I think that's actually something I worked on for myself, perhaps, which might be where some of my relative masculine energy comes out in a way, where I feel like when I was working on myself, I tried to hit all those buckets. And then I realized like that's also something I need in a partner, or like they can complement the areas that are less for me or like less that I need. So yeah, it's like a mature way to look at it.
It's beautiful.
In other words, stop fucking around.
Stop being fucking bitches, guys. Come on, get your shit together. Thank you, Emily.